Your commentator is Joe O'Brien. Scores of planes were bruised and battered.
For most people, World War II is not a memory, but a moment captured in a book or on old film. It was a dark time for millions of Americans as the country's young men fought in Europe and the Pacific. The warriors, now in their 80s and 90s, are the memory keepers. Bud Budverson was a photographer for the U.S. Army. For him, photography was more than just a hobby, it was his job. He wasn't just serving in the Army, but documenting it as well.
We would make 1 to 2 jumps a day sometime, and doing certain tactics, and I had to go because I was always a photographer.
He was only 18 years old when he enlisted, a teenager who, instead of getting shipped overseas to the Pacific late in the war, got sent to the Alaskan interior. There wasn't heavy fighting, but brutal cold. It was the perfect platform to test equipment, so much of it failing on the front lines during the long winters of Europe. It was called Force Frigid, and each of his missions and moments caught on his large format camera. He took his speed graphic news camera everywhere, jumping out of planes, walking through the wild, and everyday military moments brought to life. Heavy glass plates and film negatives, his weapons of war that didn't harm but preserved. Eventually, Budverson put away the camera, married the love of his life, and raised a family.
Then you pull a slide out, and you take the picture.
Then, more than 65 years after he enlisted, the camera was called back into service.
It's like this.
At 85 years old, Budverson assumed his camera would no longer work. At the suggestion of a family member, he tried it out and didn't miss a shot.
We're going to do other prints, so I'm going to use the chemicals in here.
His lifelong passion of photography reignited. With the help of his sons, a darkroom was built. Camera equipment was found. America. And a trip to remember was planned. Earlier this month, Budverson boarded a plane to see the World War II memorial. He was going on honor flight with one goal in mind.
I photographed a parade in Washington, D.C. with this camera. April 6th of 1946, the first parade held after World War II in Washington, D.C. And I use the same camera, and I'm taking it back now and going to photograph the World War Monument.
Now, long after the parades, Honor Flight gave Budverson a chance to be acknowledged again for his service. And while the crowds are much smaller compared to right after the war, the support is overwhelming.
I'll never have anything like that happen to me in my lifetime again. So I was kind of like I was back when I was 18 again.
While Budverson was able to capture the World War II memorial,
now I'm going to develop in this tray.
His favorite side of the trip was the Iwo Jima flag-raising memorial, a defining symbol of the war and a focus of his camera. Each photograph is painstakingly developed in his small Coeur d'Alene apartment. He no longer jumps out of planes, and his wings now sit behind glass.
That was shot with a red filter.
But his photographs allow him to connect to the past. They bring into focus moments that are so special for his family to share. Honor Flight took Budverson to Washington, D.C. to honor his service.
So that's how we develop film.
But he used it as a chance to bring to life service and sacrifice.
Get our safe lights back on.
And it serves as a reminder for everyone that gratitude never gets old. Reporting in Coeur d'Alene, Laura Papetti, KREM 2 News.